All right, there's a little flap between Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who visited some of the student protesters, and ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt that we wanted to go over for you. So first of all, let's take a listen to what Congresswoman Omar had to say that caused this whole stir.
Do you think this will translate to the Jewish students who are facing anti-Semitism here on campus?
So I actually met a lot of Jewish students that are in the encampment, and I think it is really unfortunate that people don't care about the fact that all Jewish kids should be kept safe and that we should not have to tolerate anti-Semitism or bigotry for all Jewish students, whether they are pro-genocide or anti-genocide.
So that was the part that set people off. And she said, listen, all Jewish students should be safe, whether or not they're pro-genocide. Like in her, she believes that, as I do, what Israel's doing in the Gaza Strip is a genocide. And there are people who support that. So in her framing in mind, those people are pro-genocide. She's saying, even if they are pro-genocide, they should be safe. And the people who are anti-genocide, who are protesting over here, should also be safe. And I 100% co-sign those comments.
Yeah, it was funny because the ADL put this out there. Let's put this up there on the screen. It says, watch this clip. It features Ilhan walking through Colombia, proclaiming that Jewish students do not have to tolerate anti-Semitism when they're pro-genocide or anti-genocide. It is patently false and a blood libel to suggest, where does this blood libel shit ever end? Again, these terms have lost all meaning. That any Jewish students are, quote, pro-genocide is gaslighting to impute that Jewish people are somehow at fault for being harassed and menaced with signs and slogans, literally calling for their own extermination. It is abhorrent that a sitting member of Congress would slander a group of young people in such a cold and calculated manner.
Oh, really?
This is how people get killed.
Oh, you don't think young people should be slandered?
Ilhan
ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt.
Apologize, I am not holding my breath. Ilhan Omar responded. Let's put this up there on the screen. She says, this is the pro-genocide I was talking about. Can you condemn? This is like I've condemned anti-Semitism and bigotry of all kind. Kill all Arabs. They're all Hamas, all grotesquely evil, level Gaza. So it is quite, kind of amusing. Now, look, people know I don't use the term genocide, war crimes, international law, because I think all of that is fake and is completely in the eye of the beholder. But I do think it is funny to me that, and I've observed this too, rhetorically, and I saw it in your debate on Piers Morgan. The problem that a lot of the pro-Israel people have, like in that instance, is they are very willing to be like, oh, you got to smear these young kids. It's not a genocide. These kids are anti-Semites. They use like catch-all language and moralistic language against their opponents. But in general, from what I have noticed, from Norm Finkelstein, even the most extreme, pro-Palestinian voices, at least in the relative mainstream and discourse, are always willing to be like, yes, I do condemn October 7th. I condemn anti-Semitism. And part of the problem is that the pro-Israel side is not willing to give the same even rhetorical clutch, I guess, to their opponents. And it just makes them look like either like double standard or sissies. Like here, like you can't say that, what is it, from the river to the sea or whatever is genocidal, and then turn around and then not condemn on your side exactly statements like kill the Arabs or level Gaza or whatever, because you do agree with that. And, there's a certain, you lose the morality whenever that is what you're advocating for. And I just want people to be honest. Michael Tracy said that recently. He's like, all I want is people to be honest. But you can't sit there and be using terms like blood libel and going after kids and students on the one hand, and then on the other hand, be upset when other people are going to do it straight back at you.
Okay, so put Greenblatt's statement back up. He says it is patently false and a blood libel to suggest that any Jewish students are pro-genocide. Oh, really? Oh, really? Because I just watched you, sir, on MSNBC accuse Jewish Voice for Peace of being an Iranian proxy a la Hezbollah or Hamas. And I know you for a fact believe that Hamas is a genocidal terrorist group. You literally just slandered and smeared Jewish students as being genocidal yourself. And now you're upset when Ilhan Omar actually accurately characterizes some positions as pro-genocide. So save it. And it's so true what you're saying, Saagar. It's like, this is really not complicated. And this goes back to this whole, one of the, discourse talking points or whatever about the student protesters right now. It's like, they don't even know what they're talking, these kids. They don't even know what they're protesting. They don't understand. But some of these things are complicated, like the history, if you know all the ins and outs, yeah, that's complex. It's a lot to know. But you can also very simply have a moral standard of killing innocent civilians is wrong. It was wrong when it happened on October 7th, and it's wrong when it happens when Israel's doing it. That isn't hard, it's not complex, and if you poll people, I think the overwhelming majority will agree with that sentiment. But you have to apply it across the board. And when we've had months and months and months of the slaughter only happening on one side of the equation, guess what? They can't acknowledge that, yes, killing innocent civilians is wrong, because they're faced with day after day after day of kids and women and schools being bombed and churches being bombed and hospitals being bombed. So you have to just either pretend that's not happening or butt Hamas it to death. And at this point, it's worn completely thin. So they can't take that clear moral position because their whole thing would fall apart if they did. So in any case, a hilarious fake freakout over Ilhan Omar saying something that is correct and also is very consistent, frankly, even if it's phrased in a way that makes people uncomfortable with American principles, which is, listen, even if you have speech that is so abhorrent as for it to be pro-genocide, even those people should be protected. Even they should be safe. Even if they are saying something that is, advocating for a crime against humanity, even those individuals deserve to be safe. Now, that sounds controversial, but it is a bedrock principle of America, something, that is incredibly dear to me and I think many other people in the nation. The last thing I'll say about Greenblatt's thing is Jewish people are just like any other people. Mm-hmm. Like, some are gonna have good views, bad views, be good people, bad people, etc. And the fact that they're Jewish doesn't take criticism, you still have to be able to criticize people.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean any sort of criticism is off the table ipso facto because they're Jewish. But that's exactly what he and the ADL and many elite politicians, Richie Torres and all these other people, that's exactly what they want, which is in and of itself a form of racism, saying no Jew is able to hold that viewpoint. It's no, Jewish people are complex like everybody else and have a wide variety of opinions and are able to be anywhere on the spectrum, even places on the spectrum that I find to be horrifying.
My most controversial opinion is that Jews are just like everybody else and should be treated as such.
Yeah,
and I think that about blacks, whites, whatever, Indians, any other group. I don't think you should be treated specially. I guess that's very controversial. And equal application of the law, something that we allegedly were founded on and fought a civil war for. But
I think sectarianism is very destructive. And framing this as a religious conflict is very dangerous and destructive. And it's not accurate when you have Jewish Voices for Peace, when you have so many protests, movements organized by Jews who are anti-Zionist Jews. It's a political conflict. It's a conflict at its core over, land and morality and protection of civilians. That's what the conflict is about. And the minute that you make this into this clash of civilizations, religious conflict, that's part of why this has has drawn out for so many decades, because that actually confuses the situation and makes it much more difficult to resolve.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right, we're subscriber funded, we're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.